Well, good evening, everyone. Glad to have you back with us again. We are here to talk about the risk of problem gambling in our community. And when I say our community, we're talking about the Black and Brown community. Last webinar, we had, a lot of distinguished people on, which we have again today. I'm going to do a short bio in a minute, but we talked about how and what gambling looked like in the community back in the day and what it looks like today. And today we're going to discuss exactly what this thing is. Is it just a habit? Is it a fun thing? Or has it now infected the minds of people and it's now a disease? So we're going to talk about that. But what I'm going to do first is introduce you to some very, very, very fine people that we have with us tonight. What I'm going to read is a short version of what they have done, because if I read all of this, we'd be here all night, because they are marvelous, marvelous people. So just bear with me. We're going to get through this. And the first, I would like to introduce you to Nakia Miller. She's a LCSW, earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology from College of Holy Cross in 2003. She held certifications as an alcohol and drug counselor through the Department of Health. She has obtained her Master's of Social Work degree from Springfield College and was licensed as an alcohol and drug counselor. She transitioned into a clinical practice, and she is now a licensed clinical social worker, where she has her own business that is entitled Lemons to Lavender. She is a wonderful therapist, and we're so happy to have her with us tonight. We also have a friend of mine. I love him, Dr. Gary Rule. He's Jamaican-born, Connecticut-based physician, internal medicine, healthcare and consultant, a public health practitioner, and an author, known for his work in mental health advocacy, community leadership, health, and healthcare management, notably leading Hartford's food compensation program and serving as a trustee for Wheeler Health. He holds an MD, PhD from Johns Hopkins, an MBA from Wharton, and focuses on reducing mental health stigmas, improving care, and addressing health disparities. We have with us a young woman, a beautiful young woman, who I have known for so many years. It's got to be 20 years or more. Myra, pronounce your last name for me. I didn't hear you so much.
You threw me off, Miss Kelly, with the young woman. Well, I was like, oh, me? Now that I'm in my 50s. My name is Myra Ski.
Okay, thank you, honey. She joined this SEIU Education and Support Fund in October 2023. She was hired as the Connecticut Apprenticeship Program coordinator to coordinate Connecticut's first registered apprentice program for family child care. The program aims to increase the number of child care development associates. Myra is a proud third generation trained community organizer and is extremely happy to see her adult children serving in the human services as well. She has worked for over 35 years in the Connecticut and Massachusetts area, providing technical assistance and counsel to organizations, governments, and foundations on strategic alliances, developing collaborations, and developing statewide links to affect broader policy change in health. I've got to do something more with my life. My God, listen to this. We have Brother Kevin Lovejoy. I do not have anything written on Kevin, but I can tell you he is a principal member in the Nation of Islam. He is a community activist. He has been in Hartford fighting for our people for I want to say hundreds of years. It feels like it, but many, 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 many years. And if there's anyone in this city that knows the community, it is Brother Kevin Lovejoy. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have this handsome young man who was with us last time on our webinar. And everybody knows him as Chef Jay. Let me just get one quick thing. When the SNAP benefits were denied, this young man went to the streets and pulled together a coalition that brought food and services to people who had lost their SNAP benefits. And it was an amazing event that he gave around not just Hartford, but out in some of the suburban towns as well. He grew up, Chef J. Lillian Lewis grew up in Windsor and Hartford, is no stranger to community leadership, not at all. A graduate of Windsor High School. He attended Central Connecticut State University, where he majored in psychology and African American studies, and was a distinguished graduate of the Center for Africana Studies 2019. He earned his MBA from the University of Connecticut School of Business and currently a second-year law student at Quinnipiac University School of Law. And I could go on and on and on and on, but we would never get to what we're here for. So thank you, everyone, for being here with us tonight so that we could talk about this issue. Now, I started off by saying that we did have quite a great conversation about the origin, or what we consider to be the origin of gambling in our community. And we went all the way back to when people played the numbers. And I know my mother played the numbers, and I've made comments that it wasn't something that was fashionable. They did it because it was a chance to have a little extra money in your pocket to buy groceries and pay bills and that kind of thing. And this gambling in our community has now moved into where children and youth are being affected by it because it's in some of these apps. We hear on the news all the time that these college students may be throwing games so that people can gain money through gambling and all sorts of other things. So we're going to talk a little bit. We may go back to that again, but what we're also going to talk about is, how do we treat this? Is this a brain, a mind situation? What is it? So I'm going to throw it out. Dr. Rue, let's start with you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly, and thanks for the other guests for joining. So if we're talking about just gambling, I mean, it's very common, right? So people do it initially for fun, entertainment, sports, you're raffling, you're competitive, lotteries, we see that all the time. Specifically for my community, African Americans, Afro-Caribbean, folks will say like, I dreamt my grandmother or my father, my ancestor dreamt me last night, and I got this number, 444975, and you raise out and you raise something to buy it because that's really how we brought up culturally. So I think there is a benign piece of it where you're doing it for entertainment, just for fun, because you have this spiritual connection with the ancestors. They're telling you to buy something, so you spend the $1, the $2, you're trying to win. And I think that's okay. But if you're talking about addiction, it becomes problematic when you're preoccupied, you're borrowing money, you're doing it not for fun, you're doing it because you have a bill to pay or something else that you're trying to do. And the issue with most addiction is, or really anything that's fun, in our brain, there's a chemical called dopamine. So if you, for anything that's pleasurable, there's a pleasure center and dopamine spikes in our brain. So that goes up. So if we gamble and you win small or you win big, you get this pleasure center that is activated. And then what you want to do is we want to get back that same sensation again. So that's how addictions typically start, whether it's gambling, alcohol, drugs, anything else like that. It's because in our bodies, physically, we have that thing that's going on. There's other cultural, behavioral, psychological things that we can talk about, but I kind of just stop there for now. So I think there's two things we need to talk about. One is gambling because it's benign. You're just kind of having fun, you're entertaining yourself, you're out with your friends, it's okay. It's problematic when it's interrupting everything else in your life, your relationships, borrowing money, you're trying to pay your rent, your mortgage, your car note. It's damaging your relationships. You can't go to school. You can't work. You're spending time on an app. You're spending your mortgage on Lotto. And people are actually doing that. Then it's problematic. So just they're two separate things that I think we should talk about. Some of it is fun and it's okay, and then some of it is just not okay.
Nikki,
I like to piggyback off of Dr. Rule. So there's something called neuroplasticity, where the brain actually alters toward this thing that is seen as good. Right? And the reward pathway in the brain and the survival pathway in the brain are pretty much the same. I do this thing, dopamine says, yes, this is great. I get some kind of reward, whether it's the money, the rush. And my brain then goes, I'm supposed to do more of that. Let's do more of that. Except once it's seeped into the survival pathway, the absence of it means I'm dying, I'm losing, something's wrong, I can't be comfortable, right? And then that ignites what we call the amygdala, which is responsible for asking the question, are we in trouble? How do we get out of this? What do we do? I'm nervous. And once the brain forms around that, treating the impulsivity alone becomes imminent, because you're running on pure impulse, and impulse is basically motivation. When we do something great, it's motivation. Dr. Rule, you were so motivated to become a doctor, right? But no one talks about the impulsivity that comes with a decision like, what do I want to do with my life? Oh, that's it. That's it right there. I'm going to go for it. So if we can treat before we go into treatment, I think the question is, how does this happen? So I'll just leave that there before I go too far.
All right, I'm interested. What happens, Myra, in the Puerto Rican Hispanic community with gambling?
So similar to Dr. Rue when he discusses the whole notion of pleasure and activity, entertainment, the connections in spirit. The Caribbean communities are all interlocked in different faith frames. And in many of their natural indigenous frames, whether it be indigenous to the United States or indigenous to Africa, are numbers. And numbers play a very important role in very different aspects. And our relationships to numbers are very different and much tighter. It's just, it's a number, it means something more than just. And so kind of like what Dr. Ruth said, we also, I dreamt about my brother and, he gave me the number, or, I saw 3 birds and then I saw 4 birds, kind of looking for those things in messages. Kind of the spirit and the meaning behind it. And there's nothing really wrong with it if you're not giving away, those things that you need to survive. But there's also, entertainment to it. In Puerto Rico, we used to have cockfights. It was, a lot of activities like that were natural and understood by, families like, oh yeah, that's where they're going. And, as long as everyone could still eat and be okay, we didn't have an issue with it.
Got it. So, Kevin, you're in the community a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
What would you imagine the percentage of people who may be addicted to this thing now? Or it's just fun? Because I'm understanding that the statistics show that it's a problem now.
Definitely.
And it can't be just old folks playing the numbers anymore, playing a lot. Right.
A lot more than that, yes.
Yeah.
Sister Kelly, thank you, first of all, for having me once again on the panel. And as I look, at this particular problem, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us to look for the root cause, right? He teaches us that you cannot separate the condition of a people from the system that produced the condition. And so as we look at why we do it or the prevalence of it, we also have to look at why does it exist in the first place. And so, a system that does not give a people a future will sell them a fantasy. And then they're chasing that fantasy. Well, what is the fantasy? The fantasy is get rich quick. And we here in America have been separated from, held back from the type of opportunities that we as a people should have here in America. We have a 300-year delay and still trying to play catch up. So if you're telling me that all I need to do is scratch off this ticket or maybe play some numbers and I could catch up on the financial deficits that I live every day, it's not a wonder that lottery and gambling are at every package store and corner store. We're surrounded by gambling. So it becomes a part of who we are in the community. But I think, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we have to go back and look at the root cause of it.
Jeff, I can hear you. Saying, let me hear your thoughts.
Well, I'd also think that one of the root causes is, and this is something we spoke about, and I brought up last time, a financial education, and or a lack thereof, in thinking that the best use of your $5 or $10 is to go and spend it on a scratch ticket, or to invest it in an app-based gambling system. I mean, I think that poverty is absolutely, I believe, absolutely the root cause, right? The deficit of upward mobility. The idea that you need to have upward mobility, right? There's also kind of a capitalism pitch to this, that it's not okay that you just have a normal life or a regular life. It's not okay. You need to be striving constantly to have a Mercedes, and you need to constantly be striving to have all of these very, very nice things, and it that's okay. But I think it's a symptom of a capitalistic life. I think that, and I guess a byproduct of that capitalistic life is you're educated more about the nickel defense rather than what to do with your money. You're educated more about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. You're very, very, very invested in rap battles, and you're very, very invested in fantastic drummers. You're very, very invested in a lot of things, but you're not really invested in your financial education. And if there was one, you'd probably find something better to do, and something better to invest in than gambling. And again, I go back to that. Gambling is not a sound investment at all. But what else are you going to do with your $10? What else are you going to do with your $5? What else are you going to do with your $100? These bets are getting pretty large as well. So when I heard brother talking, it resonated with me, because the root cause does need to be looked at, according to the honorable Mr. Farrakhan, brother Farrakhan. But you have to educate people about what they can do with their small amounts of money as well as their large amounts of money, because there are definitely things that you can invest in that will give you a guaranteed return. So that's my thoughts.
So if I understand what you two gentlemen are saying, that there are disparities that are driving the Black and brown people to gamble, but going back to Nakia, once this thing hooks, once you get hooked, then what?
Well, it's hedonic adaptation.
None of that makes a difference. You know that, yeah, I could do something better with my $10, but I'm hooked now. I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to the drugstore, or wherever. I'm going to get me a ticket.
But
so what happens once that hook takes place?
The
Well, maybe
unhooking process of that is really embedded in a lot of policy changes and systems of scale. We used to just gamble in our own little community. Now we have access to bigger arenas, more, different flashier things, and it's constant and consistent. We used to gamble against another human being, and in terms of intelligence, skills, wit, and that process, or even with the numbers, there is a rhythm to numbers. There is a whole system to it. But I think what's happened is the economy of scale has changed, and we no longer have like direct control of it in our own communities. And it makes a lot of money for a lot of people who don't wish to see our people succeed. And they're taking psychology, just like the pathway. They know that pathway exists. They're taking the technology and they're doing it faster and faster and faster and faster. And I think that part of it is not just educating our families financially and on understanding it, also being able to take control of their settings, to understand how it's all put together so that they can at least slow it down some for themselves.
Can I just
Nakia, can I just go to Nakia for a minute? What happens once this thing hooks?
So it's like food, fun, and air. There's really no second thought to it. It's kind of the habit of someone biting their nails, the habit of someone picking at their hair, But once you add something like socioeconomic status, the last thing a problem gambler wants is for everyone to realize their families are hungry. Mm-hmm. They don't want that, right? So they know how to make money quick. Let me go gamble this. Let me do it again. It becomes so habitual, and that's when we have addiction. So there's a difference between problematic gambling behaviors, right? And then by the time you get to the point of addiction, it can seem irreversible, but it's not. It takes a lot of work, just like any other addiction. It does take treating the family, because the money's coming from somewhere when their money is empty. There's an enabler in every, addicted family. There's a hero in every addicted family. The gambling family is no different in that way. I do think where we fail or hiccup is that we treat the individual in narrative therapy, but we don't treat the whole household. Someone, for example, who's on Section 8, every year you have to explain what your income is and where it's going. Making $60,000 and your wife or husband gambled it away, so you only brought home 20, does not qualify you for Section 8. Mm-hmm. But that's what that family would need. So when you ask, what happens when they're hooked, the brain is has reformed around the idea of this is necessary. Go do it again. I'm starving. Go do it again. I can't breathe. I'm uncomfortable. Go do it again.
Okay, so we've been talking about grown folks predominantly. That
the children too. Roblox.
Talk to me about that.
So Roblox, in its system, in each part of its gaming system, you get Robux. You can win Robux, you can earn Robux, but the system is set up that you always run out of Robux. You have to buy more. And you pay more so you could play more. And you get the ding, 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 and the ching, ching, chings. You get all those bells and whistles that you would get at a casino.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes these, phone gaming so difficult, because it's in most kids' hands. We have 9-year-olds with cell phones. You might download a fun game like a coloring book, but all of the ads go ding, 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 and bling, 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 and you really can't get around it. And it all comes with this concept of, if I do well, I'll get this money or these points, even though the system is built that I have to run out. And now I have to watch ads to get more points, or I have to go to mom and get more points. The number of children under 16 considered to be addicted to Roblox alone is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And on top of the addiction to the Roblox, they're stealing to get Robux. They're taking people's cars, they're going through their parents' phones and using their Apple Pay, because all of these games can link to Apple Pay. They make it so easy that a kid can do it. So
My
why
goodness.
it's colorful, it's loud, it sings, it's fun.
They have all the psychology.
This seems like insurmountable. I know that I have a little word game that I play at night to kind of bring me down from the day. And it has this wheel. They want me to spin this wheel to get extra points. And I'm like, I don't want to spin the wheel, because now you're going to make me look at 10,000 ads. I would rather not spin the wheel, but I know there are a lot of people who do that. And, and a lot of times when we go on some of these places to buy clothing and whatnot, spin the wheel, you get an extra $10 credit or whatever. So it appears as though gambling in some form or another is in every aspect of life. So how the heck do you get around this? How do you get out of it when every section of life has a gambling portion to it?
Sister, oh, what such a good question. In 1972, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was on a show entitled Soul. And in that interview, he spoke about the number of believers, members, who are in the nation, and this again is 60s and 70s, that were addicted to hard drugs, heroin, alcohol, and so forth. And he asked the audience, and it was a jam-packed audience, how many of you were once addicts of some sort? And you should have seen the number of brothers and sisters that stood up. And it was not that they had joined the nation so much, but it was the principles that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave. And what Minister Farrakhan explained is that what they were addicted to had to be replaced, that the addiction was filling a void. And so a quote from the minister, he says, a man who has not found something worth living for is already dead. When we are in addiction mode, our brains are no longer ours. It's addicted to that substance, that activity, whatever it is that we yearn for. And so the minister says, without purpose, people are spiritually dead. And culturally competent care has to mean the restoring of that spirituality for our people.
And I'd like to I piggyback once again on what Brother Lovejoy said. I think it's a lot about the journey, and I don't know if Sister Nikita did any research on hedonic adaptation, but it's your brain fires, your synapses fire more in anticipation of the payoff than you actually get with the payoff. It's the anticipation, it's the waiting, it's the addiction is in the anticipation of things. It's on the way to the gas station, right? Waiting for the clock to hit that certain time when the numbers are going to get played. I don't think anybody is under the illusion that, maybe you think that you're going to make a couple of $1 million or $1 billion, but I think people understand that most tickets, if you do win, they're probably going to be somewhere between $25 and $300, and I don't think anybody feels like that's going to change their entire life. But it's not really while it is about sound investing and is this a good investment, but it's also the addiction I find is in the actual journey, the anticipation of hearing the numbers called, win or lose. I think that's where your synapses are firing at their highest rate. And even if you did win, that would be great. But the experience of anticipating and getting there, I think, is where the addiction really lies.
Dr. Rule, is there a physical side to this other than mental? Is this affecting our bodies? Dr. Rule.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. I mean, every addiction results not only something happening in your thoughts, your cognition, something happening in your brain, but you get that physical rush as well. I mean, it's just like when you win anything, you feel happy. There's something that happens in your body, and that's a good thing. So you do get that reinforcement from that. Your brain, your body, your thoughts, all of that is connected, and that propels the addiction. So I wanted to go back to one thing though, right? So Brother Lovejoy talked about the root cause of, and I'll just say addiction specifically, right? What's the root cause? Because if our communities are economically disadvantaged, if every corner there's an access to a substance that's going to make you feel better, whether that's alcohol, drugs, or something else, or gambling, you have access to that. You're doing that all the time. It normalizes that kind of behavior. And then the thing that kind of happens as well is, because we are community minded, if the lotto goes to 1.5 billion, and your thought is, well, really, if I won that, what you can do for yourself, your family, for Hartford, for the entire Black community, that thought is still in the back of your mind. So, so it's really, really complex, because you kind of think, well, if I win that thing, there's so much I can do. I can build schools, I can build a hospital, I can help the country, I can help people build businesses, I can help nonprofits, I can do all of these things. So it's really, 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 really complex. It's really, really complex. So, but you're right. There is a thought process, there's a brain process, there's a body process that goes with addiction. And it's hard to break the cycle, because again, with any marketing, there is that psychology about, for kids, right? The color, the sound, the music, all of that. For the adults, when you go into a casino, it's dark, you don't know what time it is, it's cool, so you lose track of time. Just an entire market in the physical space to keep you there. All of that is going on in the background. And the thing I'd add to us, the problem now is then what happens with AI, because what AI is doing, every time you go and click on that thing, it knows how you respond and then sends you something else so that you're going to respond to it the next time. So it's a problem.
Well, I gotta tell you, it just sounds like we are doomed. We are.
I wouldn't say we're doomed.
We're not doomed.
Brother Lovejoy hit it on the head about this whole purpose piece, because I think what the systems here in the United States have done is, they took away purpose, because purpose gives you power.
Come on.
On an individual level, on a familiar level, on a community level. When you have purpose, you have power. And when you know you have that kind of power, then you can dismantle the arena. You see it as an arena, and you learn how to play the game and how to be able to change the rules and conform them to your needs. But they've taken a lot of purpose out of this community, and don't.
Yeah.
I think we have to find a way to reconstruct it, not on their terminology and in the way that, we put our children through in the United States, but in a way that's more natural and giving to who they are and their selves.
And I love the way that you said that because, you know, one of the reasons when my children want to try something, no matter how expensive it seems it's going to be, right? I impulsively enroll them, you know, because we don't we don't always have access to what we want to do as children, and we fall into what's available. You know, dance, back when we used to walk from dance and it was free. Now the nonprofit, you still have to pay. You know, so many people just can't afford the things that they would like to try or their children would like to try. So you're left with what's left, whatever's on the phone, whatever's on your friend's phone.
Oh, okay, so
But I do think that if we could do, I don't think it's something we attack from one angle for sure.
Very good.
talk
Very
about
good.
talk
From all
about
the
that a little
angles,
bit.
right? We attack from the angle of people need resources to try things like the piano, the guitar, horseback riding. At the same time, we need financial education. How do I save? How do I develop saving habits so that impulse becomes, I have $5, I want to bring it to the bank. We don't talk about that enough. That impulse can exist in that space as well. And
Well,
then
the whole banking arena has
on
changed.
the side of prevention, if we try a little more prevention and then wrap around services with the person already addicted, you know, that household that is dealing with the financial fallout of that addiction, I think it has to be all the spaces. But I also think our religious leaders are just extremely important in this space. You know, earlier today at Ebony Horsewomen, we had a brief discussion about the love of God versus the wrath of God. And if I'm growing up in a space where what I'm doing is a sin, I'm bad, everyone's going to know, I have to hide it, that's going to feed an impulse to do something negative. But if I have someone to kind of clap me along and say, hey, that mistake, it's a mistake, it's not fun, but this is how you overcome it. You are still loved, you are still accepted. This is how you overcome it. Then you're kind of cutting it off at the path. You know, you intercede in that way so that something else can happen. But you know, as with anything in our community, I think where we struggle is that there's this inclination towards one answer, but for us, there will never be one answer because everything that has attacked us from different angles. And until there's space where all those angles are hit, then it's going to be hard to overcome individually or as a community.
So if I'm hearing you, and I'd like to throw this out for you for the panelists to talk about, you're saying that we need we need purpose back in the community. We need things where people can hook on to. Number one, we need positive reinforcement. Okay. And you're also saying that these things that we need to connect back to the community has to be affordable because otherwise people are going to walk away from it. Am I hearing that correctly?
Those are good points. Yes, ma'am. Sister Kelly, I would add a point, and that is, as a melanated people, as an African people, we need to have African centered solutions to our problems. And so, Dr. Wade Nobles teaches that the pathology, right, that we see in our community cannot be properly understood outside of the historical context. So our problems that we have are not the same problems that they have in Canton, not the same problems that they have in Avon or Farmington. Inside of the Black community, we have to look at the historical context of why we have these addictions, aka problems.
And in following my tradition of talking after Brother Lovejoy, um, uh, to piggyback on what Sister Nikita was saying, I don't think it's about. Let's put it this way. I asked my boys. I have a 14 and 15-year-old, and I asked them. I said, a certain amount of money, $10, $20. I said, listen, if you put that money in the bank, I'll give you, I'll double it. I'll double the money that you put in the bank. Would you take that over putting it into, a gambling arena, right? Where you could make $1 million? Almost reflexively, I'll take the $1 million, right? So they're not going for the guarantee. And that says something about what gambling actually is, right? They're not going for the guarantee. They're not going for the Roth IRA or the Treasury bond or anything like that. They're not doing that, which would be the most rational thing to do. But there's almost sort of a functional poverty that allows for you to sort of abandon hope in that way, right? Like or cling to hope in a completely irrational way. If you had an opportunity to guarantee a return, you think you would lock it in, but that's not what's happening, right? Even though, so it's kind of like, can you see how it's kind of like counterintuitive? It's kind of counter-indicating here.
Mm.
We're doing it. We're saying that we're doing this because we need the money, right? We're doing this to change our lives in a lot of ways, right? Like people are trying to cling to some hope, but we're also sort of not taking the guarantee, the safest route to get there. We're taking almost like the wildest route to get there.
Mm.
So we have
And
we have a young man with us also this evening, and I was remiss by not introducing him from the beginning. We have Mr. Maurice McDonald, who is an intern from the University of Connecticut School of Social Work.
hey, Maurice.
And I have to tell you that he put all this together, wasn't me. Maurice did all of this. And so now we're talking to a young man in education who's working towards his master's degree in social work. And so I'm interested to know how many of y'all are addicted, Maurice? Y'all got purpose. How many of y'all are addicted?
Well, I would say that I'm not addicted to anything, but there's something that remain about marketing and certain strategies that there are, kind of like with children, especially. I would like to add on to that. Uh, for instance, the idea of like blind boxes or Happy Meals are they sound innocent when you say them aloud and you like kind of
Are you
describe them.
attacking the Happy Meal, Maurice?
What'd you say?
Have you attacked the Happy Meal? Tell me no. Please
I,
don't tell me.
I don't want to take the Happy Meal, but it is a marketing thing that McDonald's, the big brands, do with certain demographics. Is they kind of hone in on certain aspects. Like children do like toys, like that is a common thing amongst children. But if there's a possibility that you can get a toy that you really wanted in a box but you're not sure whether or not you actually have it, it will be in there. Then they kind of like hook you. There's also the craze about the boo-boos. I don't know if anyone knows about those. A lot of times people spend upwards to like hundreds or even thousands of dollars on the boo-boos for the possibility of winning something. Because there is also that scarcity tactic in marketing that if I limit the resource, then it makes you more inclined to want to buy and make sure that whatever it is that you're getting, there's a chance that it might be in the box or whatever it is. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about while you guys are talking.
So your constituents are targeted as well through Happy Meals and God knows whatever else.
And
But
also,
do you see that? Do you see that on campus as a problem? Like they're walking around talking about, can I have 5? I need to buy a ticket or whatever.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, like there's certain things like, well, we live in a capitalist society, and there's also the aesthetics. We also live in like a world where aesthetics matter. So whether or not you have like the newest item, kind of shows your status, even if you may not be like kind of like financially, it might not match financially, but it might match what someone who might be in that kind of economic category might look like. So it's say if someone has like a 24 karat golden Labubu, right? And they see you with it, I know you see them with it, and you might want to probably use your own money and see if whether or not you can buy it off of them, just for the status of having it, and that kind of thing makes you want to even buy more Labubus so that you might also match the same status. So yeah, I see those kind of things happening. Like sports betting is a thing. Like there's even people that they made it easier to bet on sports. They kind of bet on college basketball games, football games, even the games at UConn, which is where I attend. And yeah, it's everywhere, honestly.
I don't know what to say. Like, everybody's got a piece of this gambling issue. Well, what can we do about this, guys? What can we do about this? We can do what Nakia talked about. We can do start looking at the root of this thing. Brother Lovejoy talked about. I mean, seriously, it doesn't really seem like we can do a whole lot in terms of a community. We could probably make an effect in individual.
I think we can do a lot more than what we think we can do, or the system, it has kind of perpetuated to us a picture that we can do, the extent of our abilities. But I think we are in a place in the development globally of humanity where some decisions really do have to be made at the local and community level, and people will have to start looking at, how do I make sure that children know their history? Am I writing? Do I have a journal of my own? All of those things, along with the tech piece, has to happen, along with the public policy, along with some banking changes. Because remember, all of this is happening and controlled by just a handful of people in the whole world.
And socioeconomic status is always important for us. That's part of who we are. It doesn't have to be that you have the most money per se, but having generations that having your generations continue on, your bloodline continue on and be successful matters to us. But I think where we could succeed is like this living in the and, not the or. It's all of it. So that's where coalitions become helpful. Like, there is a coalition on gambling and harm reduction, right? We're just underrepresented in it, but who says that we couldn't have our own that's centered around our people, where there's a core group of folks that make sure our children have free access to music, art, science, whatever it is that they would like to try out. We have the, therapy for the person in the family. We have recovery funds or discretionary funds to help the family whose money got gambled away. I don't think we can do an or. I think if we live in that and everyone who has that skill set brings it to the table, then I think we'll see some success. But piggybacking off of Chef Jay, investment, right? Not just banking, but investment. So I invest my children's money. They're allowed to keep when they earn money, they're allowed to keep 20%, 10% goes in the bank. They could play with 10%, but the rest of the money gets put away. And it took me forever. They were like, well, where is my money? It's not in the bank. That's not all the money. And we would go to Sinnapolis and watch the movies, but their money is right across the street at Fidelity, right? So then I finally took them to Fidelity. And since I've taken them to Fidelity, they don't question anymore. They're like, Mom, okay, this is where this is going, right? But I'm not going to have enough to do this thing. Are you going to supplement that? And depending on what it is, they get a yes or they get a no.
Exactly. And
so the first
your own reward system I started it, but I allow them to build their own reward system so they feel autonomous. They feel like they have control over their money. They feel like they have control over reaching their goal. You
Mhm.
know, my daughter's to a point she pays for her own acting class. You
All
know,
right,
it's so some of that.
I can I just jump in here just a little bit. I work with a bunch of young women who have children. Ain't no way in the world they could do that. Every piece of money they get, um, let me see how I'm gonna say this, is either going to grocery store
Careful.
or the nail salon. Um, it's they don't
DoorDash too.
they and there's no
But
mindset.
that used to be me. That used to be me. And I grew up in a household, my grandfather made us read the stock, and I still missed the mark. I still missed the mark, you know, until COVID hit and divorce hit, and I became broke and realized how much money I wasted on things that did not feed me long term. Right? So some of it is maturity for sure. And this is why that access has to come from every angle, because as much as we're alike, we're still different. We're still people. We're not, we're not just people of color. We're not just people of the global majority. I still have my individuality, as do you. And that's why it's important to have people who have different skill sets and really playing up those skill sets in this community. But if we could have a more focused way of doing it, so we know who's doing what, and maybe less of our people could just fall under the radar. But again, I'm back at that concept of and.
So we have 7 minutes left. I want to go to Dr. Rule and then Brother Lovejoy.
I'll be very quick. So I think it goes back to what Brother Lovejoy said, because really what you need is purpose. But before there's purpose, you have to understand and have knowledge. So I think this podcast, when you're raising awareness about the issue, that's the very, very first thing you got to do. Because before people can actually make a change in their action, you have to raise their consciousness, give them information so that they're aware, and then help them to change their perspective. If you don't do that at first, then really it's pointless. So I'd go back to Brother Lovejoy. The first thing is purpose, education, information, and then giving them the option about what else, how can they substitute and do the other things. The other piece is people come to you at different levels. Prevention is a whole thing you got to do around prevention versus someone who's coming fully addicted, who probably needs therapy and maybe medication and something else.
Wow.
But I don't think you should lose hope. I think purpose is first, information and education is where you start.
Kevin.
I tell you, Dr. Rule, he is reading my mind. I'm literally reading from the words of Minister Farrakhan, who asks us the question, what is the purpose of knowledge? Then he says, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us that the purpose of knowledge is to feed the development of the human being until we as human beings grow into the divine and become a true manifestation of the characteristics of God. Meaning, I don't need anything else to fill the void in my life except the knowledge that I'm from God and that God is in me and that I was sent here to this world for a purpose. I don't need digital distractions, whether they be gambling or video games. My true self, when I have a knowledge of self, is to understand that God is a sure win, and I don't have to gamble on that.
That's
Agreed.
beautiful. Well, folks, I mean,
That's a great place to end, and I don't have to gamble on that. Say it again, Brother Love.
You don't become a slave to the technology when you have purpose and clarity. You then now pursue, how do I control this technology and not have this technology control me? And I would encourage our community to really look and explore on how we develop and share those skills. How do we help them identify what's AI and what's not AI? How do we help our families understand what's a platform and extension and all of the other things that they're building these systems on, that they're connecting them to? And where are the settings and how to control them, and how to, how the system sets it up so that they're defaulted a certain way. So I would strongly encourage around that, because we have a powerful tool in our technology in terms of actions and knowledge and across globally in different ways. But if we don't know how to master the tool will master us.
All right.
Well said. Well said. Well, this has been quite a conversation. I've learned a lot. I know of some of this addiction that you talk about. I have a little great grandbaby, and don't let Peppa Pig come on. Because I don't want to talk to Gigi. I don't want to eat. I don't want to do none of that. Peppa Pig is number one. And again, as Dr. Rule said, that flashing light. And it's interesting in terms of addiction. And I'm wondering, is this the new racism? Is this designed for everybody, or is
there you go
to get in it?
There you go.
Oh yeah. Well, remember
propensities to be in it, though.
And the way that, because the economy of scale is so big now, we're all doing global stuff. You're selling stuff globally now. It's in your backyard. You can get it to China in a second just by the use of this phone.
Right.
But at the same time, the information on how do you control it and make money on it globally is not being sent and shared. And you can. There's a lot of things that can be done. And we've been sold this kind of, there's nothing we can do.
Very good.
Well, it does sound a little bit of insurmountable when you talk about having resources for our kids, because parents, can't afford all of this stuff. Well, the nonprofits that are out there being cut, every way but loose, and not having enough funding to operate without, some of these funds. And so, it's just a difficult situation, but this has been very, very, very enlightening. Yes, sir.
I just gave your question some thought. I'm not sure if it could be the new racism in gambling, but certainly in the solutions to it, right? Certainly in the way that it's dealt with. Absolutely. Gambling addiction recovery looks a lot different in rural and suburban areas than it does in urban areas.
Right.
So, and the solutions and the tools that are available to you, if you are addicted to something, whether it be substance or gaming or something else, that looks a lot different in white neighborhoods than it does in black neighborhoods or Latino or brown and melanated neighborhoods. So I certainly think that there could be a big form of racism in the tools available to help you. And we've seen that across the board, from the way we deal with people who are addicted to drugs. We throw the black kids in jail, the white kids get probation or house arrest. We've seen that in the way that we deal with health equity problems, where maternal health is certainly problems are skyrocketing. The mortality rates are skyrocketing, where it's not skyrocketing in the white neighborhoods. I think that, or at least it's lagging in the effect in white neighborhoods. So yeah, I think that you have something there, Ms. Kelly. I think there is something there.
Well, I'm going to say that this is very eye-opening for me. I'm not one for gambling. I won $5 at the crap table, or what do you call it, the blackjack table, and I left, and the guy said, "Where you going?" I was like, "Going with my $5."
There you go.
You messed around and gave me $5. I'm out. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. This has been a wonderful.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet all of you.
Yes, thank you all. All right, everyone. I think we've
Brother
done.
Lovejoy, good to see you again.
And
Good
thank
to
you
see
so
you
much.
all the time.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.